Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. So you know how I've been saying for like one, two, three, like about a couple of 6, 7 years now, how we had like a lot of rumors of institutions and banks and companies, you know the whole sentence, being in the cryptocurrency space. One of the really fascinating things about the last 4, 5 months has been the actual, what's the word for it? The word's not necessity. Needing to, musted to. The point is, since we got the Bitcoin spot ETFs within the United States, required, these companies who have entered the space have actually been required to file with the US SEC and when they're purchasing these coins. There's like a certain level of money requirement that we've seen. And this definitely tops that. So where before we had a lot of questions as to who was in the space, we now know who is definitely in the space. We continue to live in a cryptocurrency market where I know that some of you are, got it, high five, but the other vast majority of people within this space don't consider this big news, don't understand why this news is significant, or simply, as I always say, just focus exclusively on prices. Meaning that if prices go down a smidge, they get really sad. If prices go up, they get really happy, but they don't understand why they're happy. It's because it's all this really big news that keeps coming out about the institutions who are buying up all the Bitcoin that there's not a lot left of. So we heard recently as well, for those of you who missed that video, shame, what was it? The Bank of Montreal, JP Morgan Chase, and a couple of other big names are also now holders of Bitcoin. Weird, right? Yeah. It's because of the actual obligations of having to file with the SEC when you are purchasing Bitcoin, especially as an institution, and it's a large amount of money. For those of you who also just missed the other recent video, we know that there are multiple world banks who are also holding billions of dollars worth of crypto, the majority of their holdings being Bitcoin, surprise, and also Ethereum. So when this news came out, I was like, surely people are going to be like, oh my word, of course this news is fantabulous, and everyone's going to be talking about it because of the significance of constantly hearing over and over and over, and keep saying it, over the last 6, 7, 8 years. And I'll even whittle it down to the last 2 years of nonstop news like this. So as everyone else is slowly revealing their money that they have in Bitcoin due to SEC filings, we have new documents. Brand new documents from a banking giant called Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley has announced, or rather, I'll give it to you this way. There are companies and peoples who are currently scouring the SEC's website and other documents online to figure out exactly how much Bitcoin that these companies are holding. Because as you saw in the last video, and the video before that, and a couple of other videos sprinkled around, these companies don't really want people, or everyday people, or the masses, so people, to know how much Bitcoin they have. If you hear as a large company, it creates a gigantic domino effect. If you hear that BlackRock has Bitcoin, other companies who are smaller than BlackRock will go, they have Bitcoin for a reason, I need to start buying. When you hear that 19 central banks are holding Bitcoin, that was also in the news for those of you, this is the news that should be significant news. The other banks also go, we need some kind of exposure to it as well. But the exposure levels of these very wealthy institutions is not minuscule. A company, market insights firm, called Fintel, announced that they went through the numbers for the filings and found out that Morgan Stanley has purchased 4.27 million shares of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Now, guess how much Bitcoin that is? Yeah. They currently are holding, at the time of me making this video, $269.8 million worth of Bitcoin. Now, isn't that weird that that's not on like any normal news outlet? Of course it's not, because they're not meant to actually know this news. And once again, they don't want anyone to actually know this news. It says Morgan Stanley disclosed 7,816 total holdings in their latest SEC filings. Most recent portfolio value is calculated at 100,000 million billion. Okay. Their entire portfolio is valued at 1.2 trillion. Morgan Stanley's new positions include Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust. We have been hearing in perplexing news that apparently a lot of companies who actually are buying Bitcoin through the spot ETFs are, for whatever reason, actually buying it through Grayscale. The question mark in the sky is because Grayscale has the highest fees for any fund currently in the space. So other companies have a 0.25% fee, 0.35%. Grayscale has 1.5%. And every filing news that we're getting, these companies are nearly exclusively holding BlackRock, Fidelity, and Grayscale Bitcoin shares. But I guess that's the way the blockchain crumbles. This news was once again not very popular. The popular news that you've probably seen, I have no need to even remimic it. The popular news in the space isn't normal or popular or that fantastic or amazing. There's a lot of news floating around about people buying these crappy coins and doubling their money over the course of a day. But the people who are usually doing it, for those of you who don't know the trick, you create a coin. Don't do this, by the way. You will be SEC'd into oblivion. You create a coin. You buy up as much of the coin, or you keep the supply for yourself. You tell people about the coin. You create a Discord. You get it hyped up. I can't repeat enough. Don't do this because you are going to get in trouble. And then what happens is that when the coin becomes popular and the price starts going up because they pushed everyone else into the market, these people then liquidate, and then they pay other companies to write articles for them about how they made $117 million over the course of a couple of weeks. And that's the loop. But then when you hear the news, you buy these crappy coins thinking that there's something spectacular, amazing, or awesome, or that they're better than Bitcoin or Ethereum, or dare I say any of the other top 10 coins. And this is how the loop continuously happens. That's what always ends up making the really big news, because it's the speculation that, well, if he did it, I can become rich overnight as well. And that's not at all how it works. And a lot of these people have gotten into major trouble. So that always ends up being the most popular news in the cryptocurrency space. But dare I say, hearing that world banks and other larger institutions and family offices and sovereign funds, I'll keep saying it over and over until the world gets it, are buying vast amounts of Bitcoin when there's literally not enough to go around is incredibly crazy news. If there's enough Bitcoin for everyone and it equates to 300,000 Satoshis, and you hear that individual companies are holding hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, the amount of Bitcoin that actually exists for normal people is probably 1,000 or 2,000 Satoshis at this point. If BlackRock alone is buying currently 7 times the amount of Bitcoin being mined, created per day, we can only assume that these coins that should be going to you, going to the masses, will never hit your hands. I told you before in another video where people were like, stop being so dramatic. Like, people can still buy Satoshis. Do you not understand numbers? How are you not understanding 8 billion people will never be able to own an entire Bitcoin? It is impossible. It is impossible. Remember and that number has changed. The number that we got years ago to be in the Bitcoin 1% was if you had 0.28 Bitcoin. Billions of people on the planet will never own 0.28 Bitcoin. It is literally impossible for them to ever even own 300,000 Satoshis. The number continues to dwindle quite quickly for how much Bitcoin, how much Satoshi you and your family will ever be able to own. That's why I mentioned before, and I'm glad people listened to me about 5-6 years ago. I said, you know, 1 million Satoshis, 1/100th of a Bitcoin is usually the number that a lot of people go for. And even then, when you own just 1 million Satoshis, you are in the upper echelon of Bitcoin holders that there will ever be. So the news is, since, same as yesterday and the day before, since the Bitcoin ETFs got started, Morgan Stanley has $269 million worth of Bitcoin. So we can only assume that by the end of the year, that'll probably be $500 million. And the other ETF issuers, for those of you who also aren't paying attention, they are smidge away from owning over 1 million Bitcoin. Not $1 million, 1 million Bitcoin. Just just gonna throw the news out there. Yeah, that's the Morgan Stanley. And other banks are kind of being forced to say how much Bitcoin they have. And I'm sure they're not too happy because other banks didn't realize, and everyday normal people continue to not pay attention as all of this happens. And this gigantic wealth transfer is happening literally on the screen in front of us. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be, I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. The article will be in the description below, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.